What if two superpowers went head-to-head in an all-out battle at sea? If the US Navy and the Chinese Navy clashed in the Pacific, which side would dominate? Would American carrier strike groups hold the line, or would China's growing arsenal of destroyers, submarines, and long-range missiles tip the balance? This is a fictional simulation built on real ships, real weapons, and real maritime geography. No shortcuts, just modern fleets tested against each other in the world's most contested waters. The night sky tears open. A swarm of Chinese YJ-83 anti-ship missiles streak toward Taiwanese coastal defenses. Sirens wail in Kaohsiung as interceptors roar skyward. The first salvo crashes into the sea. One explodes against the breakwater, showering fire across the harbor. Within minutes, F-16Vs lift into the dark, chasing PLA Navy bombers streaking home. Tracers carve red lines across the clouds. The war hasn't been declared, but it's already burning. The Chinese Type 52D destroyer launches its first missile spread at an American MQ-4C drone patrolling near the Paracels. The drone erupts into flame, the first confirmed kill. But retaliation comes fast. From 200 miles east, USS Bunker Hill launches a pair of SM-6s. One missile slams into the destroyer's forward deck. The other misses, but the explosion sends shrapnel ripping across radar arrays. Radio chatter is frantic. The silence of the Pacific is gone. On board the USS Ronald Reagan, FA-18 Super Hornets roar into the black sky. They climb fast, only to meet Chinese J-15 hurtling down from the Shandong. The first merge happens at Mach speed. Missiles streak, flares bloom. One Super Hornet spirals into the sea in flames, its pilot ejecting just in time. A J-15 follows seconds later, consumed in fire. By the time the skies clear, 4 aircraft are gone. Dozens more circle, weapons hot. Then, deep underwater, a Virginia-class submarine locks on. A Yuan-class Chinese sub lurks ahead, laying mines across a key shipping lane. The American captain gives the order. First fire, second fire. 2 Mk-48 torpedoes surge forward. Seconds later, impact. A thunderous roar rips through the abyss as the Yuan shatters. On the surface, sonar buoys record the kill. One line of the Pacific just turned red. Modern warfare doesn't always begin with bullets. Sometimes it begins with a ping. Deep in the control room of USS Missouri, a Virginia-class submarine, a sonar operator stares at his screen. A sharp echo slices through the passive sonar channel. Intentional, bold. A Type 093A, Sheng-class Chinese nuclear sub, had just announced itself. Above standard depth, far from home. This wasn't a glitch, it was a broadcast, a challenge. At 3:45 a.m., an encrypted burst hits Carrier Strike Group 5. Location, Bashi Channel. Commander's voice is flat. PLAN subs outside containment line. ROE status pending. The war hadn't started yet, but the silence already broken. Japanese radar stations blink alive. Spotted 1 Type 055 Renhai-class destroyer. 3 Type 052D guided missile destroyers. 2 Type 071 amphibious transport docks. They aren't turning back. They're heading southeast toward the Philippine Sea. In Guam, 2 P-8 Poseidon aircraft scream into the pre-dawn air. 45 minutes later, onboard ELINT detects active Chinese fire control radars. Targeting systems live. The game's on. The USS Savannah, a littoral combat ship, sails within 15 nautical miles of Scarborough Shoal. It's not alone for long. An O-54A Genkai II-class frigate appears on radar, flanking from the northeast. Over open VHF, you are violating Chinese territorial waters. Turn back or face consequences. But USS Savannah holds the course. No response. Her Aegis radar locks on. Inside Combat Information Center, a technician whispers, "They're not bluffing. Neither are we." From the White House Situation Room, Executive Directive 425 was authorized. USS Gerald R. Ford accelerated east out of Pearl Harbor. USS Bunker Hill and USS Chancellorsville rerouted toward Taiwan. 2 Zumwalt-class stealth destroyers went completely dark out of Yokosuka. U.S. Navy reservists were put on 96-hour alert. Simultaneously, China's Eastern Theater Command issued a full-scale combat readiness alert. Type 075 landing helicopter docks departed Hainan Island escorted by Type O-52D destroyers. In two oceans, engines ignite. War has not been declared, but it's coming. Two FA-18 Super Hornets roared off the USS Ronald Reagan's deck to intercept a Chinese KJ-500 AEW aircraft 210 nautical miles west of Luzon. Trailing it, two J-15s from the Shandong. The American jets locked on, so did the Chinese. For 6 tension-choked minutes, both sides flew parallel paths, radar hot. Weapon safeties flicked off. Then the J-15s peeled away. No shots fired, but the message lingered. We're already inside your perimeter. Deep beneath the Luzon Strait, USS Seawolf was already hunting. A Yuan-class Chinese submarine drifted slowly, almost lazily, but the Seawolf's acoustic team watched in real time as underwater mines deployed from the Yuan's hull, bottom-dwelling, passive sonar triggered. A minefield forming beneath the world's most contested shipping lane. Operation Steel Veil commenced. 2 more Virginia-class submarines silently repositioned. P-8 Poseidons saturated the strait with sonobuoys. Autonomous underwater drones were released into the abyss. The first underwater battlefield of the war had opened. Lines drawn, zones named, navies mobilized. The U.S. Navy declared the Freedom Corridor stretching Guam to Palawan. China countered with the Southern Sovereignty Shield, sealing off waters from Hainan to the Spratlys. 60-plus warships on both sides surged forward. USS Ronald Reagan and USS America advanced together, flanked by Ticonderoga-class cruisers and Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. Beneath them, 3 Virginia-class submarines, already primed. To the west, the Fujian and Shandong, China's newest carriers, their decks stacked with J-15s. This wasn't maneuvering anymore. This was preparation. It began with a single streak. A Type O-55 destroyer, west of Mischief Reef, launched a YJ-18 anti-ship cruise missile toward an incoming MQ-4C Triton drone. The Triton's countermeasures engaged. ECM flooded the air. The missile spiraled off course, exploding harmlessly into the sea. But 20 minutes later, the USS Rafael Peralta responded. An SM-6 missile streaked skyward and obliterated a Chinese recon drone over the Spratly airspace. The war wasn't declared, but it had already started. First blood, whispers the captain. Nobody cheers. The skies lit up. 30 Chinese J-15s surged from the Shandong. 18 American Super Hornets launched to intercept. Dogfights broke out over the Philippine Sea. AIM-120 AMRAAMs versus PL-15s. 1 J-15 spiraled into the sea. 2 U.S. jets limped back with fuel leaks and shredded tails. Air superiority still undecided, but the tempo had changed from warning shots to full-scale aerial brawls. Seismic sensors picked up a ripple near Reed Bank, a resource-rich undersea shelf claimed by the Philippines, but patrolled by China. 2 U.S. littoral combat ships approached, flanked by a Japanese Asahi-class destroyer. A Type O-56 Chinese corvette intercepted, trying to block their advance. At 10:27 a.m., a warning shell landed just 300 meters off the U.S. bow. 10 minutes later, the USS Fitzgerald spun its Aegis array, locking the Chinese ship in radar. The corvette turned away, but now, both navies had weapons hot. A PLAN surface group attempted withdrawal, led by the Type O-55 destroyer Dalian, without knowing they were sailing into a hunter-killer box set by USS North Carolina, USS Scranton, USS Antietam, 1 MQ-4C Triton drone orbiting overhead. At 11:18 a.m., torpedoes launched. 1 Mk-48 slammed into the Dalian's hull. A minute later, Tomahawk missiles from Antietam struck amidships. At 11:24, Dalian sank beneath the waves. The first major surface loss of the war. Beijing's response. This act of war will not go unanswered. The Liaoning Carrier Group emerged from cloud cover near the Luzon Strait. 12 J-15s launched with YJ-83 anti-ship missiles targeting USS America. American F-35Bs soared to intercept. 6 Chinese aircraft were destroyed, but 3 got through. 1 missile slammed into the USS Mustin, damaging her superstructure, setting fires on the hangar deck. No deaths, but every crew member who felt the ship lurch knew, this is real, this is war. After 14 hours of silent trailing, a Shang-class Type O-93B submarine fired two Yu-6 torpedoes at the USS Theodore Roosevelt, but the U.S. fleet was ready. Mk-59 decoys launched. ANSQQ-89 sonar suite tracked the inbound wake. USS Scranton responded with a single Mk-48. At 1:36 p.m., the Chinese sub imploded under 1,000 meters of pressure. It never returned a ping. 3 Type O-71 amphibious docks left Xiamen, flanked by O-54A frigates, steering toward Taiwan. In response, Taiwan scrambled Mirage 2000 and F-16Vs. USS Ronald Reagan shifted east, covering the Bashi Channel. Japanese radar detected refueling tankers airborne. An hour later, the Chinese ships turned back, a feint or an unmistakable message. We can open this front whenever we want. U.S. satellites captured dozens of disguised boats laying smart mines east of the Spratlys. China's island trap doctrine, once speculative, now live, designed to hide in trenches. U.S. Navy EOD teams deploy. Autonomous drones begin sweep. It'll take weeks to clear them. The sea lanes narrowing fast. DF-21D carrier killer missiles soared into the sky, aimed at USS Theodore Roosevelt. The U.S. Navy responds with 8 SM-3 interceptors. 7 succeed. It detonated 400 meters from Roosevelt's stern. Damage? Minimal. Shockwave? Immense. A warning shot that nearly wasn't. Global chaos. Oil passes $151 per barrel. Strait of Malacca empty. Over 2,500 vessels rerouted via Madagascar. In China, reserves activated. Major ports locked. In U.S., Guam THAAD systems go hot. This is no longer a Pacific conflict. It's continental. Operation Black Current goes live. Chinese radar spoofed. Missiles lose lock. Fuel tankers redirected by corrupted GPS. Then, USS Zumwalt fires its first hypersonic glide vehicle. Target? Chinese radar base in the Paracel Islands. It landed impact at 6:21 p.m. The fireball was seen from Vietnam's coast. The sea smolders with debris. 4 Chinese warships destroyed. 2 U.S. ships damaged. 1 submarine lost. Trade disrupted. Sea lanes mined. Global markets tanked. In Washington, Beijing, Tokyo, war rooms glow red and blue. Every decision costs lives. Every pause rewrites history. In the next war, seas won't divide us. They'll connect the fire. And just when you think it's over, the next flashpoint is already in range.